So how does Tarski define truth? You might have noticed that in our explanation of material adequacy, a definition of truth for the descriptive sentences of a language L is materially adequate if and only if the definition implies all truth equivalences, that is, all instances of the truth scheme, T, in which the placeholder A is replaced by an arbitrary descriptive sentence in the language L. We were dealing with a definition of truth for the descriptive sentences of some given language L, not a definition of truth for all sentences of all languages whatsoever. This is at the same time convenient and important. We will see later why it is important, but for the moment it is simply convenient because it will allow me to state a Tarskian definition of truth just for a little toy language, which I can determine to be so that things remain simple and readily comprehensible. For instance, I will set up that toy language in the way that it contains only descriptive sentences. For that reason, I will be able to simply say sentence instead of the longish descriptive sentence, as there will be no other types of sentence around anyway. Alright, the goal will be to define truth for a simple toy language, call it L-simple. Let me first describe what L-simple is like. The basic expressions of that language are just a couple of names for philosophers, some predicates, that is, some terms that express properties or relations, and some logical symbols. Here is the complete vocabulary of L-simple. Names: Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Tarski. Predicates: is a philosopher, is a teacher of. Logical symbols: it is not the case that, or short, not, and, or. Now for the grammar of our little toy language, which I will keep very simple again, much simpler than the grammar of English. These are the grammatical rules of L-simple. If we put a name before is a philosopher, we get a sentence of L-simple. For example, Socrates is a philosopher is a sentence of L-simple. Similarly, if we put a name before is a teacher of and another one after it, we end up with a sentence of L-simple again. For example, the sentence Plato is a teacher of Aristotle. But note that for the same reason, also Aristotle is a teacher of Plato is a sentence of L-simple. Just as for English in general, we will be able to formulate various true sentences, but also various false sentences in our toy language. The grammar of a language makes sure that we can only formulate meaningful sentences, but it does not itself know about truth or falsity as yet. Accordingly, Socrates is a teacher of Socrates is a sentence of L-simple too, and so on. Next step. If we put it is not the case that, not, in front of a sentence of L-simple, we get a sentence of L-simple again. For example, we have determined already that Aristotle is a teacher of Plato is a sentence of L-simple. Therefore also, it is not the case that Aristotle is a teacher of Plato is a sentence of L-simple. Or shorter, Aristotle is not a teacher of Plato is a sentence of L-simple. For the same reason, also, it is not the case that Aristotle is a teacher of Plato is a sentence of L-simple again. You might think, oh, that is the same sentence as Aristotle is a teacher of Plato again, since the two negations, the two occurrences of not, cancel each other out. But let us be precise. We are still dealing with two distinct sentences here. For instance, it is not the case that Aristotle is a teacher of Plato is longer than, consists of more signs than, the sentence Aristotle is a teacher of Plato. Intuitively, the one sentence is true if and only if the other one is. The one sentence says pretty much what the other sentence says, but they are still different sentences. They constitute different ways of saying the same. Finally, for every two sentences of L-simple, if we put an and or an or between them, then we get sentences of L-simple again. For example, since Socrates is a philosopher is a sentence of L-simple, and also Aristotle is not a teacher of Plato is a sentence of L-simple, it follows that the sentence Socrates is a philosopher and Aristotle is not a teacher of Plato is a sentence of L simple. And since that is a sentence of L simple and Plato is a teacher of Aristotle is a sentence of L simple also, Socrates is a philosopher and Aristotle is not a teacher of Plato, or Plato is a teacher of Aristotle is a sentence of L simple again. You see that I've put parentheses around Socrates is a philosopher and Aristotle is not a teacher of Plato. Here is the reason that I wanted to make clear that the or connects that sentence and Plato is a teacher of Aristotle. For instance, Socrates is a philosopher and, parentheses, Aristotle is not a teacher of Plato or Plato is a teacher of Aristotle, parentheses, is a sentence of L simple too, but a different one. In it, the or connects Aristotle is not a teacher of Plato and Plato is a teacher of Aristotle. If one wanted to make the grammar of our toy language perfectly precise, then one should involve parentheses in the grammatical rules from the start. But let us be relaxed about this. We can always include parentheses when this is necessary to avoid misunderstandings. That completes the grammatical rules of our language L simple. All and only what is a sentence according to these rules shall count as a sentence of L simple.